Precisamente com André Ventura, que é o convidado desta noite.
André Ventura, boa noite.
Boa noite.
Doutor André Ventura, muito obrigada desde já por ter aceitado este convite do NAU.
Vemos diariamente.
We see him daily. He hops from channel to channel. It feels like he has reserved a room on every television channel, because he's always there. He doesn't leave.
Não precisa de sair.
André Ventura, the man dominating the airwaves in Portugal, is the leader of Chega, a far-right party whose name translates to enough. Since entering national politics in 2019, Ventura has built his profile on a solid foundation of far-right themes: nationalism,
Amar este símbolo é não ter medo de enfrentar aqueles que querem destruir Portugal.
Islamophobia,
Para que não restem dúvidas, o Chega não quer mais mesquitas em Portugal.
pushing shock policies.
Estou a dizer que quem é abusador de menores deve ser castrado.
For decades, Portugal appeared to be insulated from Europe's far-right surge. Its stable two-party system and the legacy of a revolution that toppled Europe's longest dictatorship had staved off political extremism. Or so it seemed. In last May's snap election, Chega's message resonated with 22.8% of the voters, making Ventura the leader of the opposition.
They are clearly a populist party with some conservative ideas.
Nossa matriz é judaico-cristã, só que hoje alguns não querem perceber isso.
But very often they also have ideas that are very much against the right-wing position towards the economy, for example. So it seems that they're very much responsive to what the populist chatter is and the street concerns are.
Iremos juntos, lutando por aquilo em que creemos. Uma Europa com menos imigração.
Offering a very simple, oversimplified, usually with an outsider to blame as a solution for these problems that are, of course, very complex and hard to solve.
And this attracts audiences. There was a recent study by the Universidade Nova showing that between 2019 and 2024, André Ventura gave more interviews than the then leader of the opposition. I was the parliamentary correspondent in 2019, when he was the only Chega MP, with 1.7% of the votes. And already back then, there was media pressure for Ventura to be part of parliamentary coverage.
Portanto, estes números mostram que, de alguma forma, a comunicação social e as televisões em particular, desculpem que vos diga, gostam do efeito André Ventura e do efeito Chega.
He was seen as an asset by the media, especially by the TV channels, and the radio stations also succumbed to this phenomenon.
Se sabe.
It is well known that talking about André Ventura guarantees large audiences and high click rates. Journalists thought he would be an easy voice to have on, but they forgot one detail. He already had a lot of media practice and was very familiar with the playing field.
O ringue já ele o conhecia.
Long before he got into politics, André Ventura was a football pundit. Football is the most watched programming on Portuguese television. In 2024, some football matches drew in more than 5 million viewers. And with those large audiences came the post-match analysis, shows like PM Riste or Mercado, infotainment built entirely around the game. Ventura cut his teeth on these shows. His theatrical, sometimes aggressive style embodied the channel that hosted him, CMTV, a network built on the coverage of sexual scandals, crime, and football, the same topics that sell headlines in its sister outlet, Correio da Manhã, Portugal's leading tabloid. Ventura was a columnist there, too. These were his training grounds, outlets where controversy and spectacle were rewarded.
The fact that he started off as a sports commentator makes sense. Here in Portugal, we have very lively debates on these shows. Ventura used to throw violent, aggressive personal attacks against opponents of other football clubs. And he took this style over to the political arena, breaking away from a certain tradition of dialogue in Portuguese politics.
Que é este? O seu ministro é mentiroso nesta casa e eu tenho que dizer isto assim.
The word liar is not used in Portuguese politics, and Ventura used it last year against Prime Minister Luís Montenegro, quite shamelessly in Parliament.
Quando este homem
When this man entered politics and eventually landed in Parliament, He brought a media know-how that very few others possessed. That came as a surprise for news audiences, especially for what I call the sofa generation. They supposedly do not know Ventura's politics, but they know him as the man who yells at the elites like they have never experienced before, and they sit on their sofas, satisfied with that.
But Ventura isn't just yelling at fellow politicians, he's attacking journalists too, a profession already under strain.
Desculpe lá, é o esgoto em que se tornou algum jornalismo português.
According to a recent survey, almost half of the country's journalists are burnt out. 40% work on low-paid, fixed-term contracts, and between 2017 and 2024, hundreds have left the profession altogether. That exodus has given populism more space to spread. Underpaid and overstretched, the journalists who remain struggle to deliver fact-based reporting and counter misinformation.
A resposta fundamental ao populismo e à extrema-direita é mais e melhor jornalismo. E o jornalismo faz com factos, não se faz com a opinião, não é?
Com redações que estão mais pobres.
Newsrooms have huge financial constraints and a real shortage of resources. The entire environment is geared towards the decline of journalism. In this climate, there is one group of people who have gained prominence, even though they often create further polarization. These are the so-called commentators.
São os chamados comentadores.
It's much cheaper to get people into a table and talk about something that they didn't really study and they're not an expert on, but they have some ideas about. And that's easier and faster to do than actually doing an investigation or presenting the facts.
Vou dar exemplo. Os ciganos continuam mais de 80% a viver de subsídios. E eu sei que há racismo e tal, mais de 80% vivem de subsídios.
Mas esse número é fidedigno, não é?
Very much of what the recipe of success of Chega and André Ventura is exactly getting people to argue with them on the topics and the narratives that they want to keep in the agenda.
Chega initially agreed to speak with us, then pulled out. Like every political party, it has its eyes on Sunday's municipal elections. For the first time, Chega tops the polls. If it wins, voters will get a taste of what Chega governance looks like. But regardless of the result, André Ventura has already secured a major victory, the media attention that propelled him to this point.
Just after the last elections, studies showed that the news coverage had a quantifiable political impact. André Ventura was polling about 19 to 20%, and he ended up reaching 23%. If Chega now managed to win some 30 city halls, that would represent an earthquake in Portuguese politics, as it would mean that Ventura would have reached governance by proxy, that is, by governing through local municipalities. This could represent a significant reconfiguration of the Portuguese political system.
The media has pushed and amplified this image that he is an alternative, giving him that much relevance and importance. Journalism didn't took that step back of thinking that journalism is also about public service. It is not always about just getting the public what they want.
Thank you for watching. Hit that like button and leave us a comment to let us know what you thought about anything we covered this week. And don't forget to follow us on social media. The links are in the description, and you can also subscribe to our newsletter for updates from the show.